Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. I've got a sadder video than our last several have been. It ends happy, but we have an animal who got an injury. So I want to talk about this. What happened, what we did about it, and how we can avoid it happening again in the future. So let me just show you what happened here. So here's George, my beautiful Eastern Indigo snake, my OG. And as you can see, he is in a snake rack in a tub with a towel. That's not his home. He likes his big old enclosure where he can cruise and stretch out. So what happened was, let me show you the injury. That is his stubby little tail now. And you can see lacerations even on the part that did not get amputated. It was surgically amputated, the last couple inches of his tail. And now he's getting injections just, to stop any infection from happening. So many of you may be wondering, did we feed him a live rodent that tore him up? Nope, that is not what happened. I don't feed him live. He's probably pretty hungry at this point because he can't eat for a week or two after surgery, and we hadn't fed him for about a week before surgery, and he's used to getting a lot of food. So he's looking at me like, what's going on? Why am I in this little tub? Where's my substrate and all my stuff, and why haven't you fed me? But anyways, what happened? Well, George lives at my house. Most of my animals are over at the reptile barn. He has a big old enclosure, and he is an Eastern Indigo snake. This is a very diurnal species. They are not active at night at all. So I'm guessing their night vision isn't all that great. They don't have heat pits. And they are a generalist feeder, so they don't specifically target rodents or specifically target fish or anything like that. Yeah, he's totally hoping for food. So I'm going to be careful because I'd love to not get bit. He's never bit me ever. He's a sweet boy. But I'm just leaving him alone. I'm not picking him up for this video because obviously he just had a traumatic injury and a surgery. So anyways, what happened was I always end up having to feed him at night. Because when I do feed days over at the barn, I thaw out a bunch of rodents or even not rodent, quail or whatever I'm going to feed. And I spend hours and hours over there feeding. By the time I'm done with all the animals there, it's always late at night. And then I come back here and I feed my couple of animals that I have here. Well, most of the animals I have here are ball pythons or boas that are perfectly happy to eat at night. They prefer to eat at night. And then there's George. And I've never had a problem before feeding him at night, even though he can't really see. He kind of opens his mouth when he smells the food coming, and he flings his head around till he hits the food, and then he eats it. And it's always just dead rodents or dead quail or dead whatever, so it's never been a problem. However, I was so tired, and this was, it's about a week ago now that this happened, that I just took, and I never feed him large items either. I feed him multiple small items. Unlike, say, a python or something like that. I feed him multiple small items. So I just took what I had left over. He's kind of a little garbage disposal. It ended up being 4, small or medium mice. And I kind of chucked him into his cage and I went to bed. Well, I get up the next morning and his tail is just bit to shreds. And there was a bunch of lateral lacerations, which to me says that as he was excitedly hunting around for the mice I'd thrown in, because he could smell them, but his vision isn't great, he must have brushed by his tail and grabbed it and bit it and chewed on it and even, I think, probably started swallowing it before he finally realized, I'm not biting a rodent, and it's not a rodent biting me. It's me biting me. And so he pulled his tail out. Well, Eastern Indigos have really strong jaws and fairly big teeth. So the bites were very, very serious. And, I mean, he just turned his tail into hamburger. So I rushed him to the vet, and it was immediately apparent he needed surgery and was going to lose part of his tail. And the vet, bless him, understands that while the main purpose, or the main, I don't know what to call it, reason for this animal to be here is just because it's an animal that deserves to be alive. It deserves life. It's a wonderful animal. I love him. George is primarily our pet. We have him because we love eastern indigo snakes. That being said, another part of his value, there's the word I was looking for, that obviously is not equal to just his value as a living creature and a reptilian family member, but it's still substantial, is his value as a potential breeder. One, because we're a business, but two, because the gene pool of eastern indigo snakes is not very substantial. And so a healthy, well-formed, genetically diverse as possible breeding-aged indigo is just valuable to the species and to our business. So our vet was like, all right, we are going to measure the hemipene pockets, and there's I don't know what to call it. I can't remember the word he used. There's tissue that kind of extends after the actual hemipenes themselves. That he was trying to save all that. He had to amputate part of the tail. It was a goner, but he was trying to make sure that he would still be able to breed later down the line when our females are older. And so I was so grateful that he understood that just kind of intrinsically. He just knew, like, this is a valuable animal as an animal and as a breeder. So he was not going to risk, kind of skimping on the surgery that might end up putting him in danger of a worse recovery. But he also was being hyper careful not to take any tissue from the hemipenes if he could possibly manage it, and to leave enough tail that he can still actually, like, physically maneuver his tail underneath a female's so that he can complete a copulation. And it looks like it was completely successful. It's healing up well. He's had a couple rounds of antibiotics already. It doesn't look like any sign of infection has set in. So I'm really grateful for that. So the obvious solution in the future is that I have to tongue feed him, especially in the daytime. In the nighttime. Honestly, at this point, I'm only going to feed him when the lights are on. I'm just not going to risk him not seeing what it is he's attacking anymore. And I'll probably do that with all my indigos. I just won't risk feeding them at night. And I also am not going to just toss in multiple items and leave them. I'm going to make sure that I personally am putting a piece of food into his mouth, right? So anyway, that's the story of George, and that is his little stubby tail. So his vent starts just about, you see where that kind of set of lacerations is right there. His vent is on the underneath of that part, and he still has about 4 inches of tail after that, and the hemipenes end at least an inch before the new tip. So he still is intact. He still should be able to breed. He's healing nicely. So as far as a traumatic injury goes, the ending here is as good as it could be. And the only other lesson I'll leave you with is find a good exotics vet in your area if you have exotic animals, and forge a good relationship with them. My vet was not on a surgery day, and he just rearranged his schedule, skipped his lunch break, and saved my snake. So I am just eternally grateful for that. And George is making a full recovery, and someday, if all goes well, he'll be a daddy. We'll have beautiful little indigos, and we'll look back at this story, and it won't be so traumatic. For now, it's still a little raw. But just wanted to show you guys that and bring you along on the good and the bad. Luckily, this bad is not as bad as it could have been. So that is that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Till next time, we're the Reptile Barn.